art imitates life, life imitates art, and dangerous weirdos imitate horror films. It's fair to say that they have that special layer of fear when it comes to predicting audience reactions. Rather than simply enjoy a nice afternoon of fake blood and rubber guts, there are people out there that take the latest Scream installment like a motivational fridge magnet and apply it to their actual lives, donning the ghost face mask and wreaking havoc on communities in a way that should only be reserved for the fakery of film. Real life is often far scarier than movies, whether it's unhinged viewers inspired by grisly film details or crimes so terrifying they warranted their own film adaptation, as these cases soon prove. Just don't get any ideas. With that in mind, I'm Ash from What Culture, and these are 8 horror movies that happened in real life. 8. Halloween inspires the drug trip from hell. Whilst the infamous slasher movie Halloween was a work of fiction brought together by Carpenter's vivid imagination, the events that followed sure as heck weren't. The first 2 Halloween movies in the franchise spawned copycat crimes across the country, with more than one impressionable watcher succumbing to Michael Myers' stabby example. In 1984, Richard Boyer claimed that whilst under the influence of PCP, marijuana and alcohol, he thought he was under attack by Michael Myers, killing 2 victims in their late 60s in a botched robbery attempt. That he managed to stab them both 43 times as well as steal $50 out of their pockets didn't do much to convince courts of his hallucination, however. 7. The Loved Ones inspires sadistic torture reenactment. Reenacting a particularly intense torture scene on his friend, Gary George claimed to be obsessed with witchcraft and horror films, using the latter to inflict fatal injuries on Andrew Knoll in 2013. Citing The Loved Ones as one of his favourite movies, George decided that watching wasn't enough. Inspired by the film, which sees a young woman torture a boy who rejects her invitation to prom, he conducted an eerily similar chain of events on Knoll, who was discovered with 49 separate knife wounds, including a nasty slash on his stomach which was then filled with salt, as well as cleaning fluid poured into his eyes. A struggling alcoholic as well as being homeless, George was caught 10 hours later after attacking another man with a broken bottle. You'd think enough would be enough by that point, jeez. 6. Friday the 13th inspires copycat murder complete with hockey mask. If anyone can make a benign name scary, it's Jason Voorhees. Just imagine if he'd been called Keith. 8 years after his on-screen debut, a 19-year-old channeled the hockey mask villain in a sadistic act of murder. Apparently obsessed with the series to the point he dressed up as Voorhees and stabbed another college student to death, Mark Branch remained missing for a week after his victim, Shannon Gregory, was found brutally murdered in her own home. It isn't clear what happened on the evening of her death, but Gregory was known to be conducting a psychological study of Branch, who was utterly infatuated with the Friday the 13th movie series. Found at the crime scene was a hockey mask and black boots, creating mass panic throughout the local town for a missing murderer prowling the streets. A week later, a deer hunter found Branch 3 days before Halloween, having hung himself in the woods. 5. Primeval inspires a particularly aggy crocodile. Originally based on the man-eating crocodile, cutely named Gustav, the reign of terror as depicted in Primeval didn't stop after the film was released. It's alleged he's killed over 300 people in his lifetime, last spotted in 2015 dragging an adult buffalo into his river. I mean, it's one thing for people to be terrible, murderous pieces of shit, but it's completely another for a crocodile to start racking up his movie kills. Someone keep Gustav away from the Mega Croc films, for Christ's sake. Primeval details the attempted and failed capture of the giant creature in exaggerated fashion. What isn't exaggerated is his malicious intent, however, reportedly killing and leaving his prey uneaten to be discovered by locals at any given opportunity. He's been just as active since being given his Hollywood debut, so who knows? Maybe he really was inspired and reinvigorated by his vicious on-screen counterpart. 4. Saw inspires spine-tingling terror, quite literally. The Saw franchise has spawned many conversations on the most creative, visceral, and downright unpleasant traps one could create given half the chance and a few dozen paperclips, but it's never something you'd imagine to be truly brought to life. One such man, however, decided to do exactly that. Eschewing the creativity and getting straight to the gore, Matthew Tinling attacked his neighbour with a knife, stabbing him repeatedly in a savage and prolonged murder. At its most grisly point, he took inspiration from the recently viewed Saw 6, attempting to sever his victim's spinal cord in the same way the spine cutter trap functioned in the later movies in the series. 3. Warlock inspires a gruesome alchemy lesson. If you ever dreamt of Terminator scrapping all the robot rubbish and actually featuring a time-travelling wizard hell-bent on uncreating the world, then please, for the love of God, watch Warlock. but not if you intend on acting out any of the weird, ritualistic potion-making instructions, as someone's already beaten you to it. Tragically, 14-year-old Sandy Charles's obsession with the obscure cult classic resulted in the death of Jonathan Timpson, who was 7 at the time. Charles lured him into some shrubs before suffocating him to death. But that's not even the worst of it. Stripping the boy of his flesh, he tried to boil pieces in an attempt to create a magical flying potion featured in the movie, which was, I emphasise, fictionally made by using the liquefied fat of an unbaptised child. Charles was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and will likely remain incarcerated in a psychiatric centre for the rest of his life. 2. Severance inspires red-hot jealousy. Featuring a company team-building trip that goes horribly wrong, Severance is a comedy horror movie that quickly loses its humour when brought into the real world. As sales representatives are hunted down one by one by a group of crazed killers in the woods, there's one scene in particular that stands out in painful isolation. One that was reenacted on 17-year-old student Simon Everett in an intense act of sexual jealousy. Kidnapped, bundled into a car, and subsequently tied to a tree and set alight, the student was doused in petrol and left to burn as he stumbled through the forest, murdered by a trio of friends that were threatened by his relationship with a girl they were also seeing. One of the members of the group had recently watched the spoof movie and commented, "Wouldn't it be wicked if you could actually do that to someone in real life?" They were soon turned in after confiding their crime in family members. 1. Orphan inspires the plot to murder a family. Based on a couple that brings an adopted older child into their family of 4 that plots on killing the biological family members, there's more than a few real-life scenarios that make the movie no less terrifying. In one tragic case, troubled 15-year-old Roxana Sikorski created a plot to kill her family that adopted her out of an abusive Polish agency. Much in the same way as the film, she lived with the 2 parents, their son, and their daughter. The first 3 being targets for her murderous plan, which she tried and failed to kill. In the aftermath, the adopted family have remained supportive of the teen and wanted to get the help she needs. Whilst obviously injured, no one was actually killed, and Roxana was importantly always who she claimed to be, unlike the disguised protagonist of the counterpart movie.
The Force is with us. What Culture Star Wars is our brand new channel dedicated to all things Star Wars. We got lists, we got news, we got editorials, we've got ups and downs. We'll be covering everything to do with Star Wars, past, present, and future. It doesn't matter whether you're a prequels kind of person, an original trilogy purist, or if you just really love the sequels. If you love Star Wars, this will be a safe, positive space to come and relax, chug some blue milk, and maybe even have a death stick or 2. In the meantime, it would be very droopy McCool of you if you could subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media so you don't miss any of our uploads going forward. That's all for now though. I've been Ewan, and until next time, may the Force be with you. Bye!